Rune activation is going to change. Between Envoy Hour, patch notes, and info posted in the official Soulframe Discord, we've heard lots of good news for Soulframe over the last few days, so let's get into it. Joe, one of Soulframe's combat designers, joined Sarah during today's Envoy Hour, and they revealed that a hotfix is currently in the works that will change Rune activation. Instead of fully charged heavy attacks and charged shots, runes will now activate on Spectral Sight plus heavy attack for all grip types, including bows, meaning this will activate with the arrow hail input instead of charged shots. I am so happy that DE is already implementing a change for rune activation, and I am cautiously optimistic about this new version. This sounds like a great solution for melee weapons, and on bows it's definitely going to be much better than activating on fully charged shots, but I worry that it's still a much clumsier keybind than it needs to be. I currently use my WASD inputs along with mouse movement to track targets, plus I use right mouse to aim and left mouse to shoot, so I'm already up to 4 inputs when using my bow, and sometimes 5 when I'm doing jump shots for aerial charged attacks. Now I will also need to remap my soul mode key to something I can push in combination with my middle mouse button and without limiting any of those other inputs for movement and tracking. Part of why I like playing games on keyboard and mouse is the ability to heavily customize my keybinds, especially given the physical problems I have with my hands that limit what types of inputs I can use. If rune use had been given its own keybind, it would be a simple issue for me to map that bind to a key or mouse button that won't strain my hands, but the fact that it's a key combo makes that a lot more complicated. While I understand wanting to maintain parity between keyboard and mouse and controller, these interfaces are not interchangeable, and Soulframe will be much better off if the controls are designed in a way that embraces the difference between them. I love Soulframe so much, the only way I'd stop playing is if I became physically unable to do so, but if we keep stacking key combos for combat actions, that might actually happen. So I'm very happy that DE is continuing to listen and make adjustments in response to player feedback, and this change is a step in the right direction, but I hope it's not the final version of Soulframe's gameplay controls. Rune activation is not the only positive change we have to look forward to. Drop tables for the Mirrorfuir Siege have already been improved, with your completion rating determining which items you can get, and tomorrow's hotfix will come with an improvement for like wake drops. I also want to talk a bit more about the P14 joinery changes, which are actually a bit better than I initially thought. DE has clarified that weapon attunements now max out at 5 pips, which makes a lot of sense for maintaining game balance. A max attunement displays as a gold-trimmed pip. Some weapons are currently showing all 5 pips instead, but this is just a visual bug. One thing I really like about this system is that it gives us a use for low-tier joinery. Marrow's Bane, for example, will max out with the lowest tier. It feels a bit strange that joineries from earlier in the game are going to be most useful on weapons from later in the game, but at least they have a use now, and being able to add up to 3 pips of attunement to a weapon makes early game weapons much more useful in late game content. Attunement caps and base stats ensure that endgame weapons will still have their place, but earlier options are now much stronger than they were in P13. One downside of this system is that it incentivizes single virtue builds in many situations, since our dual virtue weapons will heavily favor one virtue over the other after they are blessed with 3 pips. If your playstyle favors light attacks, then this might not apply to you because you're likely to hit attunement caps on 5-pip weapons, but charged attacks can scale much higher, and in those cases you will always be better off going all in on your 5-pip virtue. This information really needs to be shown in-game somewhere. Attunement scaling is a very important factor in Buildcraft, but caps don't appear in any info panels and the charged attack values don't match what we get in-game. For me, these joinery changes mean that every P14 bow build will be a single virtue build, with just enough grace to hit the requirement for whichever bow I'm using if it's not a grace build. Perhaps in the future we'll see a dual virtue joinery to solve this problem, but for now, remember to think about what types of attacks you use when you're deciding which prism to equip. Rapiers feel amazing on light attack builds, so Espadarte might be a good fit for split virtues if you want to go that route. And I cannot wait to make a bow rapier build now that Joe confirmed rapier sidearms will be coming to Soulframe. It's going to be so good! And speaking of builds, Duello is extremely fun to play, so that is definitely going to be our next packed build. But before that, we have a dev stream on Friday, so my next video will be a dev stream recap. In the meanwhile, what are your thoughts on Soulframe's keybinds and the attempted parity between keyboard and mouse and controller? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, happy hunting!